Good evening and welcome to this edition of Newsnight. My name is Charles Odongtho, and with me in the studio as usual is the old man of the clan, managing director of the independent magazine, Andrew Mwenda. You're most welcome.
Thank you.
These days you are now keeping up with the bow tie, right? You have changed.
Once in a while it becomes my signature.
Okay, that's good. Now, today we are going to be looking at what's playing out in Chankwanzi. The NRM MPs have been meeting there since last weekend, and what is dramatically playing out now is that the party MPs have endorsed incumbent President Yoweri Museveni to be the flag bearer, and that they will work to make sure that he runs for the 2016 elections to represent the NRM party. Andrew, starting just with that, you have watched what is playing out in Chankwanzi. Do you think there is still a compelling reason for NRM MPs to continue with President Museveni 30 years after in 2016?
First of all, if you are an NRM MP and or an NRM politician, I'm sure you support NRM in the hope that it keeps power. If it keeps power, you get status, you get privileges, you get access to material resources. Who would be your second debate for you to remain in power? I think it's Yoweri Museveni. So from a purely selfish interest of the NRM, they may need Yoweri Museveni. He's their biggest asset, although he's equally their biggest liability. But if they were to weigh the costs and benefits, they are safer retaining power with Museveni than without him.
How long can that take them?
Well, but maybe until he dies.
Will that be good for the party, for the peace in the country, for stability of this country?
If you ask me that question, it is very difficult to predict political things. Social phenomenon is so fluid and dynamic. You cannot have a clear answer on such an issue. But what I can say, looking at other liberation movements in Vietnam, in China, in Cambodia, in Cuba, Mozambique, Angola, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, the one pattern you learn is that these movements, when they capture power, they never lose it. Often their founding leader dies in office. And you would expect there to be bad succession, but they always have peaceful transition. Recently, I've had it in Ethiopia. So, if I was to look at the historical time and geographic space, I would still say, well, NRM will work.
Now, let's go to
how it is playing out. Let me put it also this way. You see, it is possible that NRM can be hit by a black swan. So, history...
Can you explain that?
A black swan is the impact of a major unexpected event. You see, history may not always be the best predictor of what the future holds. I'll give you an example. Assuming you are a chicken, you are brought up by this species of animals called human beings. They feed you, they look after you. Your entire experience of life is that there is a species of animals that are so generous and kind that they have provided you shelter, food, treatment, everything. But wait for Easter and they slaughter you for food. So when you are a chicken and you're being slaughtered for Easter,
you are not alive to know what happens.
No, what I'm saying, at the point of you being killed, that killing is so inconsistent with the generosity and kindness and that magnanimity that they have been offering. So that's what we call a black swan.
Let's go back to how it is playing out in Chankwanzi. That is the most interesting one. The resolutions, I think I saw about 3, but the third one was the most interesting that captivated my mind. That they are making this resolution by the Northern Youth MP, Anite, that this resolution is to stop any ambitious NRM senior member. Now, what does that mean for you, Andrew?
I think that it was aimed at Mbabazi because there has
just Mbabazi or even Rebecca Kadaga?
But Kadaga was a light player. Mbabazi is a very serious fellow in NRM there. He has a lot of infrastructure.
So his ambition at the power is a reality? I
don't know, but what I can say is I have access to a lot of inside intelligence within the NRM and within the security services. There has been a lot of information to the effect that Amama is involved. In the Independent, did one of the greatest stories you can ever read in Ugandan journalism on the growing conflict between President Museveni and Mbabazi. There has been a lot of information going to the president, which I can confirm because I have seen a lot of these reports to the president, indicating that Mbabazi is building an infrastructure and a base within the party to challenge the president in 2016.
What are those bases? Money?
So they say
support, grassroots support, what are they?
Yes, he has a large network of members of NEC and the National Conference who are loyal to him. As Secretary General, so he has the infrastructure of the party at his disposal. The intelligence reports have been accusing him of having accumulated a lot of money and banked it in China and Dubai. They have been accusing him of networking with the foreign governments, the Chinese government, the British government, the American government, the EU, trying to build support internationally for his potential succession. So there have been these reports to the president about Mbabazi. And Museveni, being the smart person he is, I am sure he must have calculated that, look, it is possible this information is false, 9 out of 10.
Mbabazi actually came out and said this is a rumor.
Yes, this is what I'm saying. But if you are Museveni, you cannot dismiss it 100%. You can say, okay, I'll dismiss it 90%. But if there is a 10% chance that this information is true, what would you do as Museveni? You would rather put in place measures to protect yourself in the event that it could be correct. I'll give you an example. In economics, something called the herd mentality. If there is a group of antelopes chewing grass, eating the grass, and the grass shakes, all the antelopes run. Why?
There is a potential
because
enemy.
there may be a lion hiding. Now, assuming there was no lion, it was just
it's
the
still
wind.
Okay.
You can still come back from where you have run and come back and eat the grass. But if there was the lion and you do not run away, you as an antelope, you'll be eaten by that lion. So it's always better for you strategically to take the decision to run. So even when you're in Museveni, it is better for you, even if you don't trust this information 100%, to say even if there is a 5% risk that Mbabazi is planning something, I must nip it in the bud. So I think that this resolution, you see Mbabazi signed as a signature 202. People had been
but he signed very late. He signed together with Sekandi very late. Others had signed yesterday. There were 190. Then this morning it turns out that Mbabazi signed last evening.
But this is the first time, Charles, that the NRM has said, A, there are some people, senior leaders of NRM, who want to run against the president. Don't want anyone to run against him. And 2, to show your loyalty, sign something. This is the first time they've never done it. Why are they saying sign? They wanted to commit a mama. You would show us. This signature was not about anybody. They just wanted a mama to say that he will not run.
Now, who does that benefit? A mama signing finally yesterday. Does it benefit Museveni, or does it benefit a mama? Some people have been arguing, and I've been reading a lot on Facebook. There was a lot of discussion. I think quality discussion for one of the first times that I was reading, on Twitter, on Facebook, that, wait a minute, these are only about 250 NRM MPs. The big deal is at Nambole when the national delegates come, over 8,000.
But Mbabazi has said and committed that he will not run, right?
It's not legally binding.
Yes, he may change his mind, but that was a test of things to come, because now it shows that in Parliament he's very shaky. And
he has always been shaky in Parliament. I've seen that he's not very strong, particularly in Parliament, but very strong nationally, probably.
So there are two things. He will have to go to the neck. In the neck, Museveni is going to mobilize. In the national conference, Museveni is going to mobilize. We will see who will mobilize better if Mbabazi continues with this. But I think that the whole purpose of this retreat and the purpose of this collection of signature was actually not aimed at Kadago or anybody else. It was aimed at Mbabazi. First of all, forcing him to capitulate. Psychologically, Mbabazi has suffered a major defeat. If Mbabazi had the presidential ambitions, he has suffered a major defeat in Chankwanzi by him capitulating and signing. First of all, you see, politically, let me put it this way, Charles.
Yes.
Politically, it is wrong for NRM to say that they passed a resolution saying that Museveni will not.
It is actually illegal to bar anybody from signing if they qualify.
Exactly. If Museveni is so popular in the NRM,
why would you fear any contest?
Let anyone contest and he will defeat them. In any case, even for purposes of democratic appearance, it's important that somebody challenges the president. So I don't even understand why the NRM wants to front Museveni as a kind of emperor or monarch whose position as chairman of the party cannot be challenged. But you understand the logic of it, because the person challenging is both prime minister, or suspected of having ambitions to challenge the president,
historical,
and he's also secretary general of the NRM, and therefore they just wanted to force Mbabazi to capitulate, and Mbabazi in signing capitulated to a very undemocratic decision, because you see the decision itself is not just undemocratic, it is anti-democratic.
Now let's look at, as we come towards the end of this today, what about going forward? Whether Museveni stands and wins, or Mbabazi stands against him and loses, or whatever happens in 2016. Do you now see this in terms of the future of this great party?
First of all, I don't think it's possible for Mbabazi to challenge Museveni inside NRM and win. Things like that cannot happen in these revolutionary movements. This is not a normal political party like any other political party. It is like anyone standing against Besigye in FDC. You will never defeat Besigye in FDC. Besigye founded FDC from scratch. But Museveni's founding of NRM is even much more, because he started with 27 people or something. Besigye may have come from South Africa and found a large number of people here, but even in, I told Muntu, I think in 2010, he was going to run against Besigye. He said, if you get 10%, you'll be very lucky. Besigye in FDC, if he ran even now, he can get a clean 90%.
For the future of NRM, what does this Chankwanzi treat which has been likened to 2003 when the Matembes, was it the Bidandi Salis, were eventually forced to drop out of cabinet and eventually out of NRM. What will happen for the future of the NRM with this that has happened?
If Mbabazi had put up a fight, if Mbabazi had put up a fight, we would have had something like 2003. But this time everything was unanimous, because when Mbabazi capitulated and signed, it means that the power base he had built within the parliament, within the NRM caucus, collapsed. Because if Mbabazi had said no, I am sure the number of MPs were willing to stand with him and say this. You see, if I was Mbabazi, perhaps I would have done exactly what Mbabazi has done anyway. There was no opportunity for it, unless he wanted to leave government completely. But the other option Mbabazi had was to state the principle and say, as a political party, we cannot adopt a position that the chairmanship should not be contested, because the NRM constitution says there should be an election. So you cannot pass a resolution forcing everybody not to contest. You know what I mean? So if Mbabazi had stood on that position of principle, he could have mobilized a number of people in NRM and they would immediately have been kicked out.
Thank you so much. That was Andrew Mwenda, and this is the Newsnight. Let's hand you back to the news.